What is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about the Lone Druid versus Ember Spirit matchup. So I'm going to be talking about how you can punish this hero even harder from the Lone Druid perspective, and I'm also going to be talking about how you can survive better on the Ember Spirit and how you can get away with playing Ember versus Lone Druid. It's very difficult and it's very skill based. If the Lone Druid you're playing up against is a newer Lone Druid player, then you can definitely get away with it and they're not going to be as aggressive. But if you understand that this matchup is practically unplayable for the Ember Spirit, unless you do certain things that could make it a little bit better, but you're still going to lose the lane, it's pretty much impossible to win this lane against a competent Lone Druid player. And no matter how good of an Ember you are, you will need support rotations if you ever want to kill the Lone Druid, as you don't really pose any kill threat. You might kill the bear here and there with the Flame Guard, which is pretty much the build. You max Flame Guard, you take a point in Searing Chains, and the rest is Sleight of Fist. But what I do recommend is for you guys to get an Orb of Corrosion. It's very strong, as the Lone Druid doesn't have a ton of armor early on and you don't really build armor items starting off. The bear starts off with Phase Boots, which is pretty much your power timing to beat the crap out of the Ember Spirit in the lane. And once you have Mask of Madness, you will get luckier with the roots as you have more attack speed. So it's definitely going to be a very strong power timing. You usually take his tower around 5 to 6 minutes, depending on how passive you are being on the Lone Druid. But you can just run him over. Once you skill your ultimate, if you plan on diving towers, this is one of the best heroes in the game at diving towers, as with his ultimate, he can just sit there and tank the tower as he's healing constantly from the bear. And even support rotations, it has to be something like a Witch Doctor or an Oracle to kite you out. It has to be something like that. Otherwise, they're not really going to kill you. They need a lot of burst damage, and early in the game, supports don't have this burst damage to deal with you. So what I recommend for the Ember Spirit to be doing, once the Ember loses his tower, which he's going to lose his tower quite early, he should definitely go with his supports and start making space. Ignore the Lone Druid, because at the end of the day, if you don't have an Ancient Apparition or a Necrophos or something like that that really counters the Lone Druid, you're practically pretty screwed on killing him and shutting him down. So you should work on shutting down the other side lanes that you can easily take care of, so you don't completely get destroyed out of this game and you can still have some impact. Because more likely than not, the Lone Druid will be making space around the map, will be rotating, taking down towers, because once I hit the Phase Boots Mask of Madness timing, I'm going to be rotating out of lane. I'm going to be going for some team fights, some kills, and as soon as we win that team fight, you're going to lose at minimum one tower. And if you play another short team fight and lose a couple of supports, I'm going to be taking another tower, and it becomes a really big snowball effect. So you need to be very, very careful. And when you are on the Ember Spirit side of the team, you need to make sure your team is playing with you, because if you're caught solo and you get double rooted and then Savage Roared, you're pretty much out of luck. You're going to be dying pretty consistently. There's really not much the hero can do against the Lone Druid, so try and prep some remnants ahead of time for you to be able to get out of sticky situations with the Lone Druid, and pray that he doesn't get multiple roots in a row. Otherwise, you're definitely going to die even with a safety remnant out there. But I definitely recommend you guys to hear these tips out. They have definitely worked. I have played on the Ember Spirit side, and I'm usually playing on the Lone Druid side as well, but I do understand the matchup quite well, and it can swindle. It can work in your favor if you have a lot of support rotations. Say like a Tusk is a pretty strong support, because more likely than not, when you're playing mid lane Lone Druid, you don't take early points in Savage Roar on a very passive lane like it is against the Ember Spirit. There's no real reason for you to take that ability. When the more aggressive he gets, the more punishes you can do with the bear, and the more roots you're gonna get, and the more damage and likeliness of him dying is. So there's no reason for you to have to fear him away. You can definitely try and punish that ideology of Lone Druids, which will usually be the case. Some people like to be on the safer side and will always take an extra point in it, at least for the value. They'll definitely end up taking it. But if you have supports like Tusk, I think Tusk is one of the better supports at dealing with Lone Druid, as tag team is really strong, and the main Druid is quite fragile. He's not very strong, especially in the early game. He's quite squishy without his ultimate, and if you don't have a point in Savage Roar to get rid of them, you could definitely be in a lot of trouble. So if you try and shut down the Lone Druid, kill the bear the first time, and then put a lot of priority on killing the bear the second time, that Lone Druid's not going to be a threat for the next minute and a half, because he's going to be waiting for his bear cooldown. He's going to lose a ton of farm, as the main Druid doesn't really farm because all the items are on the bear. That's kind of how it works. Even though he's universal now, you can buy a couple of extra branches or circlets to make your farm a little bit faster, but it's not going to be ideal. You want your bear to be doing all the farming. But that's pretty much the best way you can try and approach this matchup. Otherwise, you're going to be absolutely dumpstered. You're going to be losing your lane pretty much 95% of the time. The other 5% is possible dives and outplays that the Ember could do to you, as you get a little bit too confident in your roots and the RNG is not in your side, and you dive the tower thinking thinking, oh, I'm destined for a root, and you don't get it, and you're just tanking tower hits and you don't have your ultimate, you could definitely die. So it's definitely your lane to lose. But if the Ember goes for the Orb of Corrosion and starts sleight of fisting you off cooldown, making sure that he hits the main druid and starts chalking him down, it's going to force the lone druid to keep right clicking the creep wave to be able to heal. So that's where you play more aggressive. You could always wait for the bear to get away from the main druid and then get closer with Searing Chains, get him to stay there for a couple of seconds and do some more chip damage with Flame Guard and Sleight of Fist. You could start doing those kind of pokey plays where you keep the bear away and he's going to have to keep forcing to heal, and that's going to put you in a much better situation for him to dive as he's low. Like I said, it's pretty much the lone druid's lane to lose because it's a very unfavorable matchup for the Ember. There's really not much he can do, and once the snowballing lone druid is out there, it's pretty hard to kill. The bear will be killed here and there. That's not really a big issue for the druid. If the bear dies 2 times in a row, it is a really big problem, especially on a snowballing lone druid, because it could really kill your momentum. So you definitely have to be careful, and not just because you're at a favorable matchup be diving towers left and right. You need to understand the hero power spikes. For me, I've always said the power spike is Mask of Madness phase boots. That's when the lone druid is at its strongest in the early laning phase. Afterwards, you have to hit the Deso AC timing with the shard. That's your next power timing, and then eventually MKB, Basher, and items of that nature. You can get Aghanim Scepter if you really feel like you want to stay away from the fight because you're getting bursted. You could do that as well, but pretty much magic damage is what's going to work the most on the lone druid, as he tends to build armor items in the later stages of the game with the AC, with the Wraith Bands. So if you have a magic lineup with an Ancient Apparition which stops him from healing with his ultimate, and you commit a lot more resources onto the main druid and ignore the bear, you're going to be doing very, very well for yourself. So hopefully you guys learned a thing or two about this matchup. It's definitely very, very difficult. I definitely don't recommend if you see a lone druid on the other team, which you probably won't because it's usually the last pick. It's kind of like a Meepo. It's definitely a last pick hero, but if you do end up seeing somebody who's being a little bit ballsy and picks a lone druid, don't pick an Ember. Pick something like a Necrophos, pick a Huskar. There's a lot of heroes that this hero really can't lane against and will get absolutely obliterated by. You can play mid Ancient Apparition. It's not a very common pick, but if you're an Ancient Apparition player and you decide to play mid, you will definitely be dumpstering the lone druid unless you are completely out of position and die a couple of times, which it could happen. But if you stay on your high ground, get the positioning correctly, there's really nothing this hero is going to do. And once you get level 6, you will absolutely obliterate him. There's nothing he's going to be able to do to you, especially if you get a support rotation. He's absolutely dead because your E is going to do so much damage to him, and it's too much damage for him to heal off quickly in the early phases. So you're going to be definitely force him to go to the jungle, and you could even take his tower, which is something the lone druid doesn't enjoy. He likes doing the tower taking, not his towers getting dropped, because it cuts down his map movements. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video and found it interesting. A like would be much appreciated. Leave a comment on what you think I missed on this video. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.